Rachel asked the question, what's my top 5 favorite classical music pieces? The top 5 that come to my mind. I'm not saying they're the 5 best pieces of classical or orchestral or symphonic or however you want to call that music. Most of them are in the Romantic tradition, not really classical. So, number 1 would be Mendelssohn's Violin Concerto. And I'll play you a little bit of them to the limit of my ability. So, I haven't even tuned. So, you're just going to have to deal with it, yo. The reason I love Mendelssohn's Violin Concerto in E minor so much is because when I was a kid, I was probably in like 2nd grade, I would listen to this going to sleep at night. I loved the end of the first movement so much that I just kept rewinding and listening to the end, which the first violins kind of come in and it just gets really like really epic sounding. And so I'd listen to that over and over and over and end up breaking the tape. So my mom had to cut out this portion. So the part that I listened to over and over, I was not able to listen to anymore, hearing that part. It's the most melancholy part. That says something about my childhood. I didn't have a bad childhood, but I always loved that melancholy, angsty part of Mendelssohn's Violin Concerto in E minor. But the rest of the piece, I mean, it kind of moves into this more happy place. Mendelssohn wasn't a very morose kind of person. He's one of my favorite artists in the history of the world. My second favorite piece was actually on the same tape. On one side there was Mendelssohn's Violin Concerto in E minor, on the other side was Beethoven's Violin Concerto. I never really got to appreciate Beethoven's Violin Concerto because I was listening so much to Mendelssohn's, but when that part of the tape broke, then I started listening to the other side. So this is the beginning of Beethoven's Violin Concerto. Let's see how much. Oh, I don't have a G. It broke. This violin sat here for 6 months, so I don't have a G, so I don't know how good this is going to work. I do not have the technical proficiency to even approximate messing that one up. It's beyond me. It's so high. This you hear at a lot of things. Actually, we watched the movie Now You See Me the other night, and this was in it, and this piece was in it. Beethoven's everywhere. You find him all over the place. This is one of those when I hear it, like I heard it on NPR one time when I was driving home, and I ended up just driving out of the way for 15 minutes just to hear the rest of it. I'm a violin guy, so it makes sense that most of these are violin, right? Third would be Paganini's Violin Concerto. I think they've discovered another one of his, and I'm not even really sure how they all work, because as a kid, I again listened to a cassette tape with Paganini stuff, and I get them all mixed up. People tend to think of Paganini as like the Steve Vai or Yngwie Malmsteen of the violin back in the day. He was the rock star of the violin, you know. And they don't really give him credit for being a good composer. Like a lot of people tend to think of him as just this kind of throwaway virtuoso. And I'm sorry, but like I've tried to listen to Dream Theater and all these guys that are really focused on virtuosic playing in our day and age, and I just can't listen to him very much. And I feel like Paganini has this ability to really craft a melody, and I think it's not just ridiculously hard. He does things on the violin that shouldn't be possible to be done. Multiple finger trills while you're doing harmonics, just weird, crazy stuff. I'm playing so many notes, you're like, it sounds like more than one instrument's playing. He's a maniac. There's a reason why the legend goes that he was possessed or whatever, because the dude was just crazy, the stuff that he was able to perform, but also, in my opinion, the quality of the music. And I'm sorry, there ain't one thing I can play. I can play this. That's one of his 24 Caprices. But his Violin Concerto, if you get a chance to check that out, I'll put a link to a YouTube video in here. Great stuff. First actual symphonic piece would be Mozart's Requiem. I got to play this when I was in college. If you haven't seen Amadeus, you should give that a watch. Fictional, really. It's not really realistic, but man, the way they portray how the Requiem was written is pretty interesting. The Confutatis in Requiem is incredible. The Dies Irae, you'll have heard that many times. It was used for Jack in the movie The Incredibles. For that Jack attack short, they used the Dies Irae from Mozart's Requiem. Also, the Tuba Mirum is, I mean, he just does so many good things in that Requiem. It's one of the Requiems by which other Requiems are judged. It's Mozart, you know, I mean, he changed the world. He's the man. So finally, and most obviously, Beethoven's Ninth. Now, this is one of those pieces that is just kind of like, why would you even mention it? It's so overplayed and over-known. I heard it for the first time when I was in 5th grade, I believe. So that was one that I skipped a large portion of because at the time I didn't like anything that sounded like opera. So I skipped most of the choral section in the last movement. And so all I did was listen to the first 3 movements. I just loved the first 3 movements, and they were incredible. And I listened to the 9th up until the point where the it's in German. I can't sing German. I can't sing. So when it got to that part, I'm just like, well, whatever. Missed out on the most incredible part of the whole piece. What he does there in the 4th movement, he reprises the themes of the first 3. So the cellos are playing like this kind of bombastic thing, and basically it's almost like it's a point counterpoint where some other instrument will take the melody from the first 3 movements and say, and then the cellos are coming, and then they start playing the 3rd movement, and then the cellos come back in again. It's like, no, this is not it. Let's show you this new melody. And it's this melody that a lot of people have made fun of. It's just very simplistic. Christian hymn writers took that and used it. Joyful, joyful, we adore thee, blah, 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 blah. And the song is not really necessarily anything Christian about it. It's kind of more of a humanist manifesto. But the idea, he actually says, the first thing that the bass or baritone or whatever, when he comes in, he says, "Oh friends, let's show you what's really awesome." And so then it's basically this jubilant theme of saying, hey, what's come from before, that's all great, but what else new can we do to say how awesome the world is, and what awesome humankind can do next. I think that's pretty cool, really. I have a tempered version of humanism. I think humans are capable of some pretty terrible things, but I just like that idea of like, oh, well, we've done all this kind of music. Well, let's see what else we can do. The CDs are actually a certain length just so that they could fit all Beethoven's Ninth on it. They made sure the CDs were just 72 minutes or something like that, so they could fit all of Beethoven's Ninth into it. It changed the world in more ways than one. If you've never seen the movie of Mortal Beloved, I don't actually recommend the whole film, but if you watch the end of the film, there's this moment where his dad is like boxing his ears, beating him up or whatever, and so the kid runs away, and so it was playing Beethoven's like, and it's just like all this angst, and all of a sudden like he gets into the water in this river, and he just kind of like lays there, and all of a sudden he's in space, and that's when the full force of the choral hits, and it's the da 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 da, but it's also with the strings doing this freaking incredible thing. Just so many string runs. And the thing about Beethoven is he knew how to write for strings, unlike Tchaikovsky, who just writes unplayable garbage. And the same thing with John Williams. The stuff is just not made to be played. It's meant to be just to get the effect of strings moving. But what Beethoven writes in the Ninth, when all those strings come in, it's just, it's so fun to play. It's probably one of the funnest pieces to play for a violinist. Beethoven knew how to write for strings. I had the chance to play the Ninth, but it was too big for this small community orchestra I was with, or college orchestra, and we couldn't do it, and so I ended up falling apart. I was so excited about being able to play that too. Maybe one day if I get my chops up again. Anyways, those are my top 5 favorites, and that's my rambling attempt at talking about them. If you'd like to hear any more favorites from music lore or anything else, or if you have any specifics, I could do this. I could have a different 5 favorites every week. I got tons of others to go with. If you've never heard of Rimsky-Korsakov, oh man, I got some Rimsky-Korsakov to tell you about. Berlioz, I got some Berlioz to tell you about. Debussy, I got some Debussy to tell you about. I could do this all the time, so if you want to hear more, I'd be happy to do so. I just don't have the chops or the strings yet to be able to replay any of them. So, all right, any other questions? Post them in the comments or in the group. Thanks.